Right now in the UFC, in terms of champions, it's as high level and high caliber of talent as it absolutely gets. And honestly, I feel like we're on the verge next year of seeing a lot of champions come into their own. I feel like we've seen kind of a turning of the new era, you know, and new champions are coming up. We have two of them that have 3 title defenses, and that's the most. I mean, a few years ago, if you compared them to guys that were the champions at the time, you'd be on the lower end. So it's crazy to see how right now we're at kind of the turning of a new age, and it's a new class, if you will. And it got me thinking though, man, like, I feel like we're on the verge of a lot of champ versus champ matchups next year, and we haven't had them for a while, to be honest. We could see a few of them, and we're going to mention them in the video today, but here's how I'm going to be breaking it down. So I'm not going to be doing like Makhachev versus Aspinall. How do they match up, you know? So every champion is going to be fighting upwards and downwards. Flyweight for Pantoja, I mean, he can't go down a weight class. There is no strawweight for men unless we really want to see him versus Shevchenko, but I'm honestly all right. So for example, if you have like an Islam Makhachev, he's the lightweight champion, 155 pounds. We're going to match him up against Belal, who's the weight class above at 170, and Topuria, who's the weight class below at 145. We're going to be talking about how these two styles clash. We're going to be seeing who's getting the better of who. But since we're already talking about Pantoja, let's just get into it. With the flyweight champion versus the bantamweight champion, we have Alexandre Pantoja with 3 defenses, and of course Merab Dvalishvili freshly won the title of Sean O'Malley at the Sphere. He had a great 2024. But regardless, this is honestly a fight. The odds of it happening are low, but I really could see it happen. If you think about it, all it takes Merab to win another fight or two, and Pantoja to win another fight or two. So let's get into actually how these two styles are going to clash. Who's going to get the better of who? Am I crazy for leaning towards Pantoja? If we're talking about specifically Merab, I think that Pantoja is a dangerous matchup for him. Pantoja's a pretty well-rounded fighter. He can crack behind those hands as well. He does have good striking. He knows how to put the volume on guys, but he does have good grappling as well. And I know that sometimes people can call him, you know, a bit of a smudge, and I know people kind of have that gripe with him, but the guy gets into wars, and Pantoja is so well-rounded on the feet, on the ground. He has great cardio as well. I mean, we've seen this guy go against Moreno and Royval and many more in like these 5-round wars. And so Merab, don't get me wrong though, his wrestling is good as well. And I know that people call him a bit of a smudge. I mean, I was talking about how Pantoja can get shit sometimes for it, but Merab gets that times 8. I feel like it's a bit more deserved. I feel like Pantoja puts on a bit more of a show as of late, but don't get me wrong, Merab is a bit underrated when it gets to regards to like how boring people think he is. I mean, I get that he has duds. I get that his style is not entertaining. I get that he's really pitter-patter on the feet. I get that the guy cannot absolutely get a finish for the life of him. You know what I mean? What I mean about Merab being underrated in that regard earlier is that some people genuinely do like watching Merab, just seeing the cardio for days and just seeing him absolutely be able to ragdoll guys and put on domination clinics. And I respect that. And honestly, I do respect Merab as a fighter because he really is building up one of the greatest resumes of all time at bantamweight. And I know bantamweight's a bit weird in that regard with the whole GOAT situation. It doesn't really have a GOAT for some fucking reason. But Merab, if he beats Umar, you know, could be the bantamweight GOAT, so I'm putting respect on his name. I think Pantoja gets after it a bit more. You know, he's a bit more of the aggressive fighter. But Merab can be aggressive in his own sense because the guy spams fucking takedowns, and I think that's what he would do against a guy like Pantoja. But the thing is, I think Pantoja, we're going to see how his size and his frame and the build kind of translates up a weight class because, you know, I mean, these guys are relatively similar in build, similar in frame, you know, probably similar in power. If anything, you can give Pantoja the strength advantage because Merab's not really knocking most guys, you know? And I get that it is up a weight class, but we gotta wonder how Merab is gonna be able to handle that because in terms of chin, I mean, Pantoja's got a good chin. He could take Valium from guys, he could lay on the Valium from guys, and I think that Merab's cardio is gonna be a really big challenge for Pantoja. And if there's anything that can overwhelm Pantoja in this matchup, because clearly the striking is in Pantoja's favor, so Merab is gonna have to just overwhelm him, gonna have to drown him again. Like I said, spam the fucking takedowns until eventually it fucking works, you know? And again, that's gonna be pretty difficult to see because Pantoja is defensively and offensively sound on the ground, but overall, I do think that the level of competition at bantamweight is better, but I honestly do think that Merab is going to lose to Umar, so I don't think this fight's actually ever going to happen. But if it did, honestly, guys, I'm going to lean towards Pantoja, and call me fucking crazy for that, but I'm going to stand on it. But stand your base. Stand your fucking base. But moving on next, so now we're going to be matching up Merab versus the featherweight champion, up a weight class, Ilia Topuria. And I know that these guys would never fight, you know, I know that they got the Georgian bomb for each other, and I can respect that, but in general, I don't really know how Merab would do against a lot of like 145ers because I know that he's not really the biggest bantamweight. But at the end of the day, in this matchup, you clearly gotta favor Ilia Topuria, okay? Ilia Topuria, mate. Because, I mean, when you talk about the striking, it's clearly on the side of Ilia Topuria, not only in terms of just the volume and the output, the technique, the precision, but also just the power. The power difference between these two is absolutely massive, you know, because you have a guy like Topuria. People are thinking that this guy has a really good chance of knocking out Islam Makhachev, who's a big 155er. The power difference between these two on the feet is huge. And also on the ground, I mean, while Merab has really good cardio and that helps him kind of like progress through the 5 rounds. I mean, I know O'Malley kind of took the 5th from him, but like usually his cardio helps him overwhelm guys and drown guys as the fight progresses, and his offensive wrestling becomes more and more sound and efficient to most people. But the thing is, Ilia Topuria isn't most people. Not only is he going to have the size advantage in this fight as well, which is not going to be good for Merab in terms of the grappling and the wrestling. I know that Topuria isn't like too much bigger than Merab, but I think it's significant enough to where it could be a problem for him. And I could see Merab getting knocked out. I simply see that's how this fight going, because as good as Merab is on the ground and with the wrestling, I just think Topuria, I mean, the guy came into the UFC as primarily a grappler, but people forget, man, but because he's knocking fucking everybody out, he's knocking out Volk and Max and everybody else. And so overall, man, you got to give most advantages in this fight. I mean, besides probably maybe like the cardio and maybe the wrestling, but I guess it's just however the fuck you want to look at it. So overall, of course, going to be leaning with Ilia Topuria on this one. I think we'll be able to take out Merab on the feet in a couple rounds. So moving on up next to the super fight, Ilia Topuria, the featherweight champion, moving up to face Islam Makhachev, the lightweight champion. So again, hopefully we'll see this. It's going to be really interesting to see, because what if Makhachev loses? What if Topuria loses? I mean, honestly, if Topuria wins 1 or 2 more and Makhachev wins 1 or 2 more, yeah, I could see this fight happening, but it's all about getting it through, you know, because both these guys are in 2 of the most talented and deep weight classes in the UFC, so they have a lot to overcome. I know that it's easier said than done because, nobody's beating Topuria and Makhachev, man. It's already said and it's already booked, but you got to realize Saryukian, and then you have like Makhachev wanting to move up to welterweight if Belal loses, and then you have guys like, I know that Topuria could probably beat guys like Evloev and Lopez relatively. I don't want to say easy because it won't be, because Lopez is really fucking dangerous, and you know, so is Evloev in a lot of regards, but I just think Islam has a lot more challenges than Topuria, you know? I'm a really big Volk guy, but nobody wants to see this rematch. We're getting it anyways. I think that's part of why Topuria wants to move up. Maybe he's just impatient. He wants to be retired by 30. He wants to get everything done. Maybe he wants to take advantage while Makhachev is hot. And maybe that's why he wants this fight so bad, and he wants to just step up to fight Oliveira, so, you know, kind of willingly. Topuria is one of those guys, he could be a little goofy goober in the brain. You know what I'm saying? Chromies can be kind of loose sometimes. And I think he kind of just spits out shit, and it seems like it's going to be more realistic to us because it is Topuria saying it. But at the end of the day, I feel like he's just going to be fighting Volk. I feel like he's going to knock him out. I really, really like his chances against Lopez or Evloev. So Makhachev, I mean, I think he beat Saryukian, but Saryukian is a tough fight for him. But I think Makhachev's more inclined to move up. Because he wants to beat, like, the I only beat featherweight allegations, I feel like he would genuinely rather take a fight against Oliveira, like a rematch, over a fight against Topuria. Now, these two styles, though, going at each other, I mean, it's really, really hard to say who would get the better of who. I'm leaning towards Makhachev. This is, I feel like, as close to a fucking pick'em as you can get. I don't give a shit that Topuria is a featherweight moving up and size advantage and all that bullshit, because featherweights move up really well, you know. But you look at guys like Volk, you look at guys like Holloway, and even more, like, featherweights usually transition well up there, and like I said, especially at the elite level. And stylistically, this is just a beautiful matchup. It really is. It's a fight fan's dream. You have Makhachev, who's becoming more and more well-rounded by the day. I mean, he's already the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. His striking is crisp. He's finally just putting on such high-level finished performances, and I feel like he's finally been gaining a lot of fans, really rising the stock, and proving why he's the pound-for-pound best, you know? He has power behind those hands. His striking, I mean, he outboxed Dustin Poirier. Yeah, Poirier gave him a lot of problems in that fight, but still, Islam's a strong guy, and I think when it comes to the grappling, I think that's where his strength really shows. I mean, obviously, it translates on the feet as well. We've seen him get finishes up there. You know, he cracked the fuck out of Fat Volk, but the strength that Makhachev has on the ground is unreal, and I feel like if there's a big advantage for Makhachev in this matchup, I think Topuria is great on the ground. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for Makhachev's favor in this fight, to be honest, is just his power on the ground, especially offensively, because Makhachev's good at advancing positions. He's good at getting the subs. He's good at dictating where the fight he's good at dictating where he wants the fight to go, and I think that's what he's going to be able to do. I think Topuria is going to be giving him a lot of problems and not making it easy by any means, you know, because Topuria, like I said, came in the UFC primarily as a grappler. He's really good down there, and defensively, he would give Makhachev a lot of problems. You know, it's not easy to take Topuria down, but Volk, Volk was also, especially at the time, one of the most well-rounded fighters in the UFC, and Makhachev was able to take him down. Granted, wasn't able to do too much down there against Volk, but at the end of the day, man, I guess styles make fights, and I know just because Topuria beat Volk, that doesn't just guarantee that Makhachev's gonna have a harder time with Topuria or an easier time or whatever the hell, you know? If Makhachev will be able to dictate the fight and where it goes and put on the pressure and the pace, I think that he would be able to get the better of Topuria, but Topuria looks better as the fight progresses, and we've clearly seen that. I think if Topuria is going to win in any regard, as good as he is and well-rounded as he is, I think it's clear best chance in this fight, I should say, is on the feet. You know, I don't think he would try and even, you know, I'm not saying like drag it out to the distance, kind of like Volk, you know, might need to, but Topuria has the power. Topuria is a finisher, and I could see him taking out Makhachev via knockout genuinely in the first like 3 or 4 rounds. You know, I don't know why I said 3 or 4. It's most of the fucking fight. Any of the rounds, I could genuinely see Topuria getting a knockout, but that doesn't mean I would just pick him to win. You know, I am leaning towards Makhachev on this one, but this is as high level and high stakes of a fight as you could possibly get. And who knows, maybe we will get it, man. It's up to fate. It's up to the MMA gods. Moving on up next, so to Islam Makhachev versus Belal Muhammad. So this is one of those fights, despite the thumbnail, we will never actually get this fight. And you know what? I actually think it's a pretty good fight. When you really look at it, I mean, I know it's so easy to shit on Belal, boring as fuck, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, Belal is really good. He has a really good resume. I mean, it sucks that it sucks depending who you're asking, but right now he's at the very top, and I really like his chances against a lot of the guys in the top 5, like people he could potentially fight, or even a guy like Makhachev. But at the end of the day, the age is a real factor, because now he's 36, and yeah, he did beat the 35-year-old title curse against Edwards, okay, and that's really hard to do, but can you do that twice? You know what I mean? So Belal's good. I think that his striking is improving. I think that he has good cardio. I think if you want to beat Belal, I just saw a video of Khabib talking to Cejudo, and brother, listen, if you want to beat Belal, you have to finish. You have to finish him, brother. And I agree with him, to be honest. Like, you can't beat Belal via a decision, in my opinion. Not at this stage. I don't give a shit about the age shit or whatever. I mean, that's why I think a guy like Shavkat or like a JDM, like, you need a finisher. You know what I mean? Somebody who can crack, somebody who can kind of get him on the feet. But Belal's good on the ground. Like, I don't think there's anybody real. I mean, you could argue like a Sean Brady, but Belal knocked him out. Knocked him out, bro. That really did happen. I mean, clearly these two guys are primarily grapplers, but the striking advantage is massively going to go to Islam Makhachev. I think that Belal looked good on the feet against Leon Edwards, who of course is a striker. And he rocked Leon Edwards, which was insane to see, and he was out striking him. So that was the performance of a lifetime from Belal Muhammad. But the fact that he was piecing him up, I think is crazy, and it goes to show how much their striking has been improving. But the thing is, he ain't going to be able to do that to a Makhachev on the feet, in my opinion. I mean, the grappling would be really interesting to see who gets the better who on the ground. I would lean towards Makhachev, of course, but on the feet, it's night and day between these two. Makhachev has the power, Makhachev has the volume, and yeah, Belal, of course, Belal can put on the volume at times on the feet. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's pitter-patter punches. In my opinion, I think that Islam Makhachev would win this fight. I don't think we're ever going to get it. I mean, maybe, but I just think that by the time that Islam would finally decide to say, like, okay, fuck it, I'm just going to go up, that would be like 2026, and I don't think Belal's going to have have the belt by then. I do think that Belal will beat Shavkat, but I could see a guy like, I don't even know who, maybe like a JDM or somebody fucking, I don't know, down the line taking the belt from like end of 2025. But we'll see how everything goes, man. But honestly, yeah, this really would be a great fight. But moving on up next to Belal Muhammad versus the middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis. I know these fucking two were yapping about this fight actually going down like a few months ago, but I'm really glad they sobered up. I know DDP fights like a drunk man, but he was talking like a drunk man, dog. Then Belal is saying he's down. I want to bring it, you know, I can go against du Plessis, you know, I can out wrestle this guy, I can take him on. But how would these two guys do against each other? Okay, I'm leaning towards DDP on this one, to be honest. I know that Belal has the advantage in the wrestling, but DDP is sound down there as well, man. DDP is good down there. I know that, like, he recently just got the sub over Adesanya, and, like, you could argue, like, oh, Adesanya, man. Adesanya's not a grappler. That was the first time Adesanya's ever been submitted his entire career. So Adesanya has good defensive grappling, you know? I mean, the motherfucker is the second best middleweight of all time. Belal, while he may have the advantage in the grappling, the striking, and the power, like I said earlier, with Makhachev is clearly going to go to DDP. DDP also has a really good chin. So does Belal, though. I can't see DDP finishing Belal, to be honest. I could see DDP kind of winning a big war back and forth against him. I could see the fight going on the ground. I could see it staying on the feet. Again, back and forth, but I could see like a 49-46 or a 48-47 in favor of DDP. So I think that DDP is going to bring sort of a relentlessness to Belal that he probably hasn't really faced before against most opponents, but I do think that Belal is going to be able to handle the storm very well. I mean, he is durable. I think that DDP would be more able to control where the fight goes, control the cage, you know, get the fight into the pocket. Like, I just can't see him being on the ground for very long if it does go there. You know what I mean? Hence why I do think that this would be a close fight. So Belal can get him down, but I think DDP will get back up and then keep swinging and banging, you know? Moving on up next to DDP versus Alex Pereira. This is another one that, like, I think that they were kind of like going back and forth about it. When DDP beat Adesanya at 305, like, Pereira posted a picture of him next to the TV and he's like, I'm coming for your drama. And I'm like, this is another one, man. Like, let's slow our fucking roll here. Like, let's just keep fighting the people in the divisions for right now. I mean, if anything, Pereira could go up to heavyweight. Let's talk about the fight between these two right now. So DDP and Alex Pereira, honestly, it is a really good fight, though, to be honest. Like, I want these guys to do their own thing, but it really is a good fight, but overall, this fight, I can't pick a clear winner, to be honest. I can't. You know, I feel like for all the other ones, I've been able to say like who I would lean towards in this fight. This one, I feel like solely depends on the weight class. And maybe that's a hot take, but I feel like if Pereira is stepping down to 185, especially now that he's used to being around 205, this isn't like Figgy if he wanted to go back down and fight Pantoja now that there's no contenders and he can get another title shot and it's like a good opportunity for him. Like, or like a Holloway. Holloway was able to go back down to 145 after bulking up for Gaethje. Like, Pereira was already fucking massive and cutting like 40 pounds to begin with to get into 205. Now that he's just been up there, I can't see it, man. You know, I know he steps up late minute too for a lot of the time, and I know that he would probably be able to cut off the weight, but I think that it makes him really chinny at middleweight. And DDP is powerful. Adesanya knocked out Pereira, and Pereira has a good chin, you know? So, and Adesanya, granted, while he does have power, don't get me wrong, I know everyone likes to fuck around. He's a decision machine, blah, 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 decision machine, blah, 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 which granted, when he was champ, yeah, he was. But at the end of the day, Adesanya can crack, and he does have power. And we've seen it in multiple of his fights. No shame in that. But I think that DDP, my point being, will be able to do the same thing. I mean, we saw DDP knock down Adesanya, you know? And then that's where he got the sub from, you know? He's piecing him up on the feet. I could see DDP getting a knockout over Alex Pereira at middleweight. If this fight goes down at light heavyweight, Pereira's division, I could see Pereira knocking out DDP. When it comes to 205, like, I do think that DDP is a big guy, you know? But I think middleweight is his weight class. In terms of the grappling, clear advantage for DDP on this one, but Pereira's takedown defense clearly is evolving, so I think he'd be able to get back up for the most part, but I could see a submission from DDP. I mean, if DDP was able to give Adesanya his first submission loss, I could see Pereira getting subbed as well. But again, Pereira's weaknesses are a bit more obvious than DDP's. DDP, again, with the drunk man style, the Rainier to Ritter style, just swinging and banging. This is a really entertaining fight. When you look at the finish rate combined of these two guys, I mean, there's some of the most high rate finishers in the UFC, and especially the fact that they're the champions. I mean, this fight really, we would be in for a treat. It'd be a knockout for sure, regardless of whatever weight. I think that Pereira definitely has the build and the frame advantage. These guys are both so powerful, not a clear advantage, so you just gotta deal with it pound for pound, I guess. Probably would lean towards Pereira, though, of course. In terms of like the speed and precision, man, I mean, I feel like I would lean towards Pereira, but I feel like DDP would come just full like a bat out of hell, and it would be really interesting to see how Pereira would deal with that, being on the back foot. So who the fuck knows? I really, like I said, winner depends on weight class. Would be a really fun matchup though, but don't think we're ever gonna get it. So moving on to Alex Pereira, the last one we have here, versus Tom Aspinall. Now, guys, Jon Jones, the reason why I'm not gonna be talking about him is because like I just don't care for that fight. We all know, like, after like UFC 309, I mean, it was a genuine talking point, talking about like Jones versus Pereira, even in the build-up. And all everybody was fucking saying is that nobody wanted to see the fight. We all know what would happen. Jones would just out-wrestle him. And that's all I have to say about it as well, man. Like, Pereira always has the chance to knock him out, 100%. But fight doesn't intrigue me. Aspinall versus Pereira is a much more intriguing matchup. And I think, if anything, it's the matchup we're going to get. I think if Aspinall and Jon do fight, which I really don't think they will, would be one of the biggest fights of all time, though. Please do it. But I think Aspinall would beat Jones. It's not a guarantee, of course. Jones is really fucking elite. But if these guys fought, like, if Aspinall were to beat Jones, I think that this fight would eventually happen if Pereira beats Ankalaev. And then if Jones retires and Tom becomes undisputed champ, he'd either just fight Pereira right away after Pereira fights Ankalaev, or he would go through one of the guys that's like, you know, maybe like a Gan or a Volkov, whatever they decide to fucking do with that. Jesus. Here's the thing, man. This fight would feed families, man. This is a great fight. I didn't like the idea of it 2 fights ago, like after Pereira beat Hill and before Aspinall knocked out Blades. I'm like, guys, can we just like relax a bit on this one, you know? Like, but seeing Pereira, what he did this year, and Aspinall, all the insane Aspinall shit that's been going down, Jesus Christ, and all the hype that's been getting around him, this is a great fight, and it could be a super fight, man. The sheer amount of power combined between these two guys, it's insane. But I am going to be leaning towards Tom Aspinall in this one, because I do think that while Pereira would be able to beat, I mean, pretty much every heavyweight, right? I mean, except for Jones and Aspinall. I mean, it'd be interesting to see him fight like a Jalil Almeida and how he could overcome the grappling. Be interesting to fight him. Or it'd be interesting to see him fight like a powerhouse, like a Sergey Pavlovich. Would be interesting to see him fight somebody experienced and well-rounded, like a Volkov. So, I mean, Pereira at heavyweight, I think he would either do well against most of them or beat most of them, but against Aspinall and Jones, I don't think he would beat either of them. I just think those are the two best heavyweights in the world right now, and I feel like there is a clear gap between the rankings and those two fighting out for who's the real fucking champ. So, in my opinion, I think that Aspinall would knock him out within a round. I don't mean to say like in a round, like Pereira is shit, y'all. Okay, it's just the power up there. When you look at Aspinall, he has the shortest average fight time in UFC history, man. I mean, he's been doing this to the most elite caliber in the heavyweight division. I know Pereira, again, is very, very, very elite, one of the greatest fighters of all time. So I'm not trying to disrespect him by saying he gets put out in a round, you know? But it's like, what? You think this fight's going to go 3 rounds? Pereira at heavyweight? And just, have you ever seen just any Tom Aspinall fight, dog? I mean, I could just see this one absolutely burning the house down. I think that Aspinall has the clear ground advantage, and I also think that's another reason why he could win this fight, because we've seen him in interviews say, if I were to fight Pereira, I'm going straight for the takedown. We've seen Aspinall literally just say that he would just shoot for a takedown right away, and I think on the ground there's a clear advantage, so I think Tom would be able to win via knockout, via submission. He has the size, he has the power, he has the frame, he has the grappling, and this fight would not go past a round. It's just, these guys hit too fucking hard. Of course Pereira has the chance to win. Of course he does. You know, he's very, very elite, and he does have such elite kickboxing. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time, like I said. But I think Aspinall would be too much. And at the end of the day, man, that is going to be how I matchmake every single champion. I mean, maybe you put Mario Batista against Aspinall. I know everybody's been really dying to see that. So, Hunter, you know, come on now, please. But anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching and making it this far in the video. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, not just of these matchups, but let me know your picks. Let me know your thoughts, how these guys go against each other. So again, thank you guys so very much for watching All the Smoke MMA. Appreciate y'all dearly, and I will see you guys next time.